So let's talk about animations in CSS. Technically speaking, even though I'm sure you get an idea about what an animation is, yeah, the typical box moving around the screen, or the loading spinner showing you some sort of spinning visual effects. But in reality, when we refer to animations, there are two different how to say that, styles, or two different techniques, to be more precise. There are two different techniques to animate our HTML components. The first one is animation, and the second one is called transitions. I would like actually to start from the latter, because transitions are easier to understand than animations, are less powerful, but easier to start working with. So let me present you a problem. I remove everything we've done before, so I got a simple box. So let's put some background color blue, and maybe some basic properties like color white, and height 100 pixels, padding, whatever. Yeah, let me see how it looks like. So if I refresh the page, maybe, here we go, I got my box. Yeah. So my box has 100 pixel height. So first of all, I want to present an example where by hovering the box, it's going to double the height. Instead of 100, the height will become 200. So can anyone tell me in CSS how can I change the how can I capture the mouse hover event to apply a different styling? Correct. And now here I can change my properties, like height 200 pixels. That's correct, Daniel. Yeah. Box colon hover. That means the these styles will only apply when the box is hover. What's the specificity associated to this? This is what we call a pseudo selector. I don't know what's the specificity associated to a pseudo selectors, but we can figure out, right? So if we go to Google, do you remember the that joke about designing CSS specificity? Do you remember the joke? So I think as part of that joke, they explain what's the specificity associated to a pseudo selector. Let's see if we can find it out. Pseudo, that's a pseudo class, you see? Pseudo class, it has a specificity 10. Okay, interesting, I didn't know that. So if a pseudo class, which is colon something, yeah, in that particular case colon hover, has a specificity of 10, can anyone tell me what's the specificity associated to this box colon hover selector? That's correct. That's correct. It's 20 because it's 10 because of the class and 10 because of the pseudo class. Yeah. Cool. So back to the web browser. Let's see if it works. So by default, the box height is 100. If I hover, 200. If I move the cursor out, 100. You see? So that's definitely working as expected, 100 or 200. And now, how can we animate that process? Well, what we can do is, look, on the box, we can add a new property called transition. And that property will expect basically 3 values. The first one is, which property do we want to animate? That's obviously the height. The second property is, how do we want to animate? Which algorithm do we want to animate it? I'll go back to this point in a minute. For now, let's put linear. Linear means the animation will run at full speed from the beginning to the end. And finally, how long the animation will run? 1 second, as an example. So whenever the height changes, it will interpolate from the default value 100 to the new one 200 during 1 second. So it will be 101, 102, 103, 199, 200. Yeah, that's the idea. Let's see if it works. Just pay attention to the blue box, guys. Hover. You see? Now, the change is not immediate. It takes 1 second to complete. You see, from 100 to 200. 100 to 200 and vice versa, of course. Yeah. What the linear means. Once again, the linear means that the animation, or the transition to be more precise, runs at full speed. This is not very popular. So the most popular transition style is called ease. Ease means the transition accelerates, and then towards the end of the transition, getting closer to 200 pixels, it slows down. This is like driving a car. You know, when you drive a car, when you start the engine, you switch gears. First of all, you start accelerating, yeah, and then you go in taxi mode. When you go on the highway, you go at constant speed, and eventually, when you leave the highway, then you decelerate. You get this analogy, right? So the speed is not constant. So that's the same process, the same mechanism. Now, if not sure if you can actually notice that, but now the animation doesn't run at full speed. It first of all accelerates, then it goes full speed, and then eventually it decelerates or it slows down. This is arguably the most popular transition style because it feels more natural with many elements we got in our environment. Yeah, when you bounce a ball, first of all it accelerates and then it accelerates. You know, things like that. Now the question is, what happens if my animation is very fast? Because of whatever reason, I want to add an animation, for instance, in 300 milliseconds. Yeah? Is really quick. But what happens if something doesn't work as expected? We want to debug it. Is there a way to slow it down? Yes, of course, we can go to the code and change it and increase the value, whatever. But that's not very sexy. That's not very elegant. Thankfully, with Google Chrome, we can slow down animations. We can run them at a different speed. How do we do that? If you notice, there is an animation tab somewhere in your, I think it's on your elements panel. If you cannot see that, on the three dots, there is an option called Show Console Drawer. That's a bit confusing because here you got a mix of completely unrelated things, including the new feature of Google Chrome. But apart from the console, the second, I believe it's the second one, the second tab is called Animations. And then you can see that when I enable it, so Google Chrome is recording my animations. So I can, in theory, I can replay them, which is pretty convenient. Yeah? I can replay them. And also, as you probably already noticed, I can play around with the speed of the animation. So for instance, if the animation by default takes 300 milliseconds and I play at 10% speed, how long will it complete? How long will it take to change the height from 100 to 200 pixels, guys? Yep. The animation, how long the animation takes to complete when you hover the box? Wrong. It, 300 milliseconds, correct. Yeah, that's what we've specified in our code. However, in DevTools, we'll slow down. We are running the animation at 10% speed. So effectively, how long will the animation take to complete? That's correct. Now it's 3 seconds. Yeah? Let's prove it. If I hover the box, yeah, hopefully now you can see that now the animation slows down towards the end. Yeah? It's definitely not running at constant speed. And then you may be thinking, what happens if I want to add some very cool style? Can I have a bouncing style? So for instance, whenever I hover, first of all, the box shrinks a bit, and then it increases a lot, and then it bounces back. Can we do something like that? Yes. Thankfully, with Google Chrome, now we can do some really cool stuff. So look, if I select my box, you see I got my transition style, and I got ease by default, but then look at this tiny button. Open Cubic Visor Editor, whatever that means. If I select it, look at how cool this is, guys. I can essentially play with different styles, you see? And I can play and I can change them one after the other. Yeah? To me, one of the beautiful things about this graphic way of declaring your styling is, look, you can even do super cool stuff. Look at how cool this is, guys. So I can essentially create some sort of bouncing effect. You see the ball on top previews the style. So let me play it again. You see the bouncing style? So once I accept these changes, look at what happened if I let me try that. If I hover the box, guys, first of all, it will shrink the box a bit. Instead of 100 pixels height, it will be 80 pixels or something. It will expand it beyond 200, maybe 220, 230, and then it will shrink it. It will reduce it again to 200. Just pay attention now, guys. You saw that? Likewise, if I move the cursor away, it will expand it again and it will shrink it. Well, you see? So you create a nice accordion effect easily using Chrome DevTools. So now, will this change persist if I refresh the browser? No, because I apply the changes only on DevTools. So if you like what you've done, remember, copy that line on DevTools, then go back to your Visual Studio Code and then paste it. So once you paste it, then you can essentially safely, you can refresh the web browser, and now the style will persist. That's a good question. I'm 99.99% sure it will work fine in Safari. If you are thinking, for instance, about Firefox, I don't know exactly what you can do when, guys, when you don't know whether something will work or not. There is a very cool website called Can I Use? So Can I Use will tell you the support level of any HTML, CSS property. I think not sure about HTML, but for sure CSS. So now if I search, for instance, transition, let's see what we got. Sometimes it's a bit hard to find. Transition, that doesn't make sense. Transition, no. Transition, oh, that's a bit weird. So all 34, I'm sure it's somewhere. So somewhere that will essentially tell us what's the support level on each browser. Come on, that's very slow. Here you go. Transition. CSS transition. That's it. You see? CSS transition. So here we can see the compatibility level on each web browser. According to this matrix, you can see if it's fully green, if it's solid green, it means yes, that property is supported. If it's red, for instance, on Internet Explorer 629, that means the property is not supported. That's good because it's also telling you how many people is using that web browser. So that tells you how important it is to support that or not. Yeah. You can see that unfortunately very few people is using Firefox these days. Yeah? But you can see that Firefox is clearly supporting that. Sometimes the support is in sort of olive color, and when it's olive color means it's some sort of experimental or partially supported. Then you need to read the notes to see if what you are trying to do in particular is supported or not. But talking about transitions, unless you want to do something really weird like Opera Mini support or things like that, you can see it's fully supported by all the browsers. So you can safely apply them. You can safely play with them. Any questions, guys? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. That's a good question. That's a really good question. So what happens if I add another box here called Hello Adam? So by default, the box Hello Adam will be underneath the Hello box, yeah, which is expected. So now my question, guys, is: will Hello Adam be moved alongside the blue box as soon as I hover it? What do you think? Yes or no, and why? Yes, and you are right, Adam. Has the blue box any weird positioning, like position absolute or something like that? No, nothing. No, exactly. There is nothing about positioning. Based on that, Hello Adam is displayed after the blue box, regardless of how large the latter is. So if I hover the blue box, you see, Hello Adam is moved alongside. So how can we make the Hello Adam? No, I'm not even going to explain that. That's all right. Ignore my question. That was more complicated than I thought. Yeah. So that's the way it works. You see, Hello Adam is displayed alongside all the time. So this is some sort of accordion. Yeah, an accordion. When you expand one part of the screen, it shrinks somewhere else somehow. Yeah, visually speaking, at least. You see, the height of the white area depends on the height of the blue area, visually speaking, at least. Anything else, guys? Anyone else apart from Adam, Minji, Dan, Ebrima, Panos? Yep. Yep. Yes. Yes. Probably yes. Don't forget something, guys. This line is some sort of shortcut. Do you remember, guys, padding 30 pixels? That's, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that's a shortcut of padding top, padding left, all these things, right? You remember that? So that's a shorter way. In reality, we can do that as well. That's a shortcut. Yeah? So when talking about transitions, CSS transitions, that's the same thing. That's a shortcut of multiple transition properties. So we got transition property. We got transition timing function. That one. And so let's keep it is. And we got transition duration, I think. Transition duration. Here we go. 300 milliseconds. Is there anything else? Yes, you got, for instance, Daniel, transition delay, I believe. So transition delay means before triggering the transition, it will wait, in this particular case, for half a second. Don't forget, guys, we're slowing down everything. The speed is set to 10%. So instead of half a second, it should hopefully take 5 seconds before triggering. Let's see if that's right or not. I hover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Yeah. Starting from the 5th second, then the animation triggers. And likewise on the other way around. When I move the cursor away, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the transition triggers. Does it make sense, Daniel? Good, that's all right. Any other questions, guys, about transitions? No? Cool, thank you, guys. So now I got the last question for you. Can I apply a transition on whatever I want? So for instance, can I say instead of the height that the box has display none, and eventually when I hover it got display block? Will that make any sense? And the transition property is the display. Yeah, you are pointing towards the right direction, Panos. That doesn't make sense. That won't work. That doesn't make any sense. Why? Because don't forget, guys, that you can apply transitions on numeric properties. The height is a number. Yeah, you can change. If you got 1 and then you got 10, you can interpolate 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, but the display property is like being pregnant. Either you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. You cannot be half pregnant. So that doesn't make sense. However, if you want to display something slowly, you can do something with the opacity, because the opacity is a number. Yeah. So if I got opacity 0 and then I got opacity 1, that means fully displayed, and opacity 0 means fully transparent, that should work. You see, the box is fully transparent, but when I hover it, boom, you see, shows. When I blur it, then it disappears, but it's still there because that's a number from 0 to 1. So be careful. You cannot apply transitions on every CSS property, only the numeric ones. Can I apply transitions on colors, guys? So what if I want to change the color from blue to red? Will that? You can't? CAN. That's absolutely right. Was that Ian or Dan? I struggle. Dan. Okay, cool. So yeah, you're right, Dan. You're right, because colors at the end of the day are numbers. Yeah. So technically speaking, if did I set the opacity to 0? Oh, stupid me. Yeah. Let me remove the opacity, otherwise we'll see nothing, right? So yeah, blue. And now if you pay attention, what's the color in between of blue and red? Is it green or yellow? I don't care. But you'll see the color slowly changes from blue to red. You see? Because a color is a number. So that's a nice one, Dan. By the way, Dan, do you notice you got the first Player of the Day award yesterday? Cool. Nice one. Congratulations for that. Cool. All right, so that's about transitions, guys. Let me present you animations. As you probably notice, the point about transitions is they are triggered when something changes. You got two states. You declare your default state, and when you change a class name, then you interpolate. You interpolate a given property. Could be the width, could be the height, could be the padding, could be even the color, the opacity, whatever number you are playing with gets interpolated. But you need to change something. I cannot, for instance, trigger the transitions as soon as the page renders. That doesn't make sense. Yeah? I need to change something. However, when talking about animations, I don't have to trigger any change. I can trigger animations straight away. Animations are slightly more complex to set up, but they are way more powerful. That gives you full control to create super cool stuff. So let me present you how animations works. We need to set up a few properties. Instead of using any shortcut, I will present you the full individual properties. First of all, the name of the animation. So let me go back to the height example. 100 pixels. So animation name, I don't know, expand. We'll see what that means in a minute. Then we need to set up animation duration. It's the same as transitions, yeah. So 300 milliseconds. And for now, that's it. What that expand means? Expand means somewhere afterwards we can declare something called keyframes. And keyframes works in the following way. You set up the name of the animation. I call it expand. And now you set up some properties how your expand box will look like at the beginning and how this animation will look like at the end. So you can set that, for instance, by default the box has 100 pixels, and at the end of the journey the box has 200 pixels. Something like that. It's not that complicated. Yeah. So at the beginning, as soon as I refresh the page, the height will be 100 pixels. After 300 milliseconds, remember actually that we are slowing down everything, so it will be 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, the box will be 200 pixels height. Let's see if it works. If I refresh the page, can you see what happened? Let me try again. Let me refresh again. Can anyone see where the problem is? Again? That's correct. It rolls it back, yeah? It reverts the animation at the end. It works. It starts expanding the box. And then pop. At the end, it resets everything. That's unfortunately the default way of running animations. I never really agreed on that. This is like what we talked about before with the width, content box, border box, and all these things. So that's the same problem. I've never been a big fan of that sort of default behavior of CSS. However, there is a way to change that. And the way to tell, the animation runs in one direction. So once the animation is complete, don't roll it back, please. The property is called animation fill mode. And the value is, in this case, forwards. That means just move animate your box in one direction, yeah, from the beginning to the end, but don't roll it back. So now, if I refresh the page, whoop, you see, once the animation is complete, it remains idle. It doesn't go back to its original shape. Yeah. So, do you have any questions? That's a really good question, Ian. I think that was Ian. That's a good question. What Ian is mentioning is, we got height 100%, 100 pixels, sorry, twice. Can we remove it from here? What do you think? Will it work? Any thoughts? Anyone? Okay. I agree with you guys. Yes and no. Well, first of all, that example in particular will work fine. Let me show you. If I refresh, it works. It works, yeah? So it works. So then you commit, you push, you're happy with that, you deploy the change to production, and then 2 months later, your UX specialist says, hey, you know what? The animation runs very, very quickly. Yeah. So, when you are rendering the page, you don't want to animate everything that quickly. We want to wait. We want to wait a bit. How can we delay the animation? We've seen that with transition, right? There is something similar. Animation delay half a second. Yeah. Let me show you what the problem is now. If I refresh the page, pay attention, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you see the problem? Exactly, the height is different. In other words, that from token only applies when the animation trigger. So if you delay it, that piece of code won't be executed at all. That's why you need to be careful. You need to be careful. Personally, I think I never ever write that from block. Never. I always do that. Because then I'm specifying the height of my box by default, and then I don't care if there is any delay. Half a second later, the box will start expanding, but it won't cause that weird effect. Let me show you. Now by default the height is 100, and after 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it naturally expands. You see? Let me show you again. By default the height is 100 pixels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here you go. The box expands. Any questions, guys? Whatever you want, any numeric value panos. I think that was panos. So for instance, numeric. Okay, not here. Yeah. Absolutely, panos. You can put whatever you want here. Exactly. Look, you can say at 50%, the box will be 200, and then at 100%, the box will be 150, for instance. Yeah, of course, yeah, you can do that. You can specify as many keyframes as you want. So now, yes. Yes. I'm doing something in between. Look, I got 0%, that's the same as from, 100%, that's the same as to, and I'm declaring a new keyframe in between. 50%. With the wording too, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Let's try that. So you want to use from. I'm not sure. Maybe yes. I don't know. Let's just try that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it works. So definitely, you can combine keywords and numbers. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. So for instance, you can say, but I find that a bit weird, right? If I'm playing with percentage. So yeah, but yeah, then yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yep. All right. So now what you're saying, let me remove the animation delay for simplicity reasons. So Daniel, can you tell me how long? Let's ignore the speed changes that we are applying on the Chrome. So just focusing on that piece of code. Can you tell me how long the animation will take to complete? 300 milliseconds, correct. At the beginning, at 0 milliseconds, let's say, was the height of the box at the beginning. Correct. And what's the height of the box after 300 milliseconds? Correct. And what's the height of the box after 150 milliseconds? Yeah, that means 50% of the animation durations. Yeah, that's right. So if we do that, let me add the delay again, just for let me put a smaller number. So just for readability purposes. Now, if we refresh the page, you will see the box will expand to 200 after 3 seconds, and then it will shrink up, you see, after 150. So we're creating some sort of bouncing effect. Okay? And of course, guys, you can play with different properties. So because we're using curly braces, we can change not just the height, but we can change whatever you want, right? The colors, and you can animate multiple properties at the same time. See, the box by default is yellow. Let me refresh. I think by default is blue. It will change to red and then to yellow. If you pay attention, red and yellow. So you can, yep. Yes. I have no idea. I've never seen that. No. That doesn't make sense. Because if you do that, what happens if I set up, for instance, something beyond 300 milliseconds, like 450? No, you cannot do that. I think just percent numbers and from and to. That's a good question. I have no idea. 150%, no idea. Let's just play with that. So 1, 2, 3. All right, let me refresh. Maybe that wouldn't even work. So 1, 2. No, actually that's a bit weird. So that is actually ignored, and the animation is rollback, as you can see. Well, it's a bit strange behavior, right? But no, you can't. Anything else, guys? Yes. You got backwards, I think. So I think backwards will run the animation maybe on the other way around, or maybe not. Yep. Yep. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, so you can play. I mean, I don't know all the possible values, yeah, but you can play with them, definitely. Anything else, guys? Let me quickly tell you something then. I mean, it happens often that through your career you will have to deal with many technical colleagues, but also many non-technical colleagues, business people, analysts, this kind of people, right? For some non-technical person, can be very difficult to appreciate your technical talent, as you can imagine, yeah, because they don't understand why you have spent 1 week of your life improving some algorithms. They may not understand that. Yeah? However, animations are something very visual. Even if I show an animation to my mom, who hasn't touched a laptop at all during her life, she will say, "Oh, that looks cool, right?" So my personal advice is try to play a lot with animations. Try to understand them. Try to master them, because many companies will appreciate them, and the employers will appreciate that skill as well. Talking about your portfolio, don't forget that your portfolio is essentially your contact card, right? That's the first impression a company will get about you. So when talking about portfolio, I mean, I'm not a big fan of these websites that run 200 animations at the same time. I find that a bit noisy and stressful. However, having some subtle animations may help. Let me present you something. You can run animations by yourself, or you can use a plugin. Let me present you one of my favorite plugins. This is called Animate Css. So Animate.css, this is a CSS library to easily animate your content following many different techniques. Yeah. So let's try to install it together. Let's see how it works. So I'm going to GitHub. I would like to check the GitHub page, and here it will tell me the instructions how to use it. So the first thing is npm install animate.css. So that line will download the package into my project. So I need now to go to the terminal. Let me open the terminal, view terminal. Personally, whenever you want to install something, my suggestion is kill the server first. In theory, it should run without killing the server, and it actually sometimes runs, but sometimes I have issues with that. So to stay safe, you kill the terminal, Control C, and now you install the plugin. That will download all the dependencies we have to deal with to actually play with the plugin. I think we already installed something else, right? Did we install the router component a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, I think we did that already. So you already know how to install components into your project. In Node 1, exactly. So that's pretty much the same thing. One of the beautiful things about modern coding is that, now there is a de facto standard way of adding new plugins to your project. In the past, that was a pain in the ass. Cool. So that may take a few minutes. In the meantime, let's have a look to how to use it. So the first thing we need to do, because we are working with React, it's somewhere. Let me remove all we've done. So let's keep a single box, hello box. Yeah. So what we need to do is we have to import the plugin. Import, I think it's called Animate.css. And then after doing that, I'm actually going to copy and paste that example. Yeah, and I will see in a minute what the hell that means. So we got here an HTML tag, h1, class animated. That's the first thing. Animated is essentially, that's a common class you always have to add if you want to use the power of the library. Infinite, that's a new class, meaning the animation will run forever. Bounce means I will apply some sort of style. There are multiple styles you can apply. If you don't know what bouncing means, yeah, I think it was on top. So if one of bounce, I don't know, one of these effects, you see, where the box bounces. And finally, you got delay 2 seconds. That means the animation won't run until 2 seconds after rendering the page. So that's a very declarative way of dealing with animations. You don't have to write any single line of CSS. So we will see if now the text bounces or not. So it will now refresh the page, hopefully after a few seconds, and we will see if that title bounces on the screen. So let's wait until my server starts and see how it goes. Once again, I'm not a big fan of adding hundreds of animations, but I think in your portfolio, having some subtle elements somewhere, I think that adds some sort of spices, to your portfolio. Because I don't know what else to say until the server starts. So let's just wait and see what happens. It's very slow, right? Anyway, you see that if you check the documentation, you can find out all the different styles, all the different animation styles that you can apply. Just check, and then just check the documentation, and that will tell you how your element can be customized. Look, you see. So I got my text bouncing on the screen. It's bouncing forever because I added that infinite class. If I remove it, it wouldn't bounce after the first animation. Yeah, obviously you can do whatever you want. So instead of bounce, hopefully you can do shake. So if you do shake, you'll see how the animation, hopefully in a second, changes. Once it refreshes, you see. If you find that particularly noisy, you remove the infinite, and then it will do it just once. You will see after refreshing, you see after 2 seconds it bounces twice, or it bounces once, sorry. That's a way to get the attention of the user, like, I don't know, book your place now. Yeah, you saw something moving on the screen, and the user will hopefully get the attention on that box. Any questions, guys? Go for it. I don't know what to tell you. With Google Chrome, there are ways to measure the performance of your app. Yeah, you got some performance, memory, audits, profiling. So there are ways to measure the impact of your animations, but that is beyond the scope of this bootcamp. So I'm not going to go that far. It is true. It is true that the most stressful part computing wise of any web app is loading time, because at loading you got many components, many UI elements trying to render, trying to load, react, lifecycle, stuff like that. So personally, I will suggest you to try to avoid animations at loading time. Try to do something like that. Add a delay. That's finger in the air, right? Why 2 seconds? I don't know. But that's some sort of delay. So first of all, you let all the components to render, and once your web app is stable, then you trigger the animations. That's all right. Anything else, guys? Thank you. So once again, remember, I'm part of Codeflix. I think it's good to play around with it. I think it gives you really good value for the money, right? Considering how difficult, how easy it is to set up, I think it's a really good add-on to your project. That was it from my side, guys. Thank you for watching.